Communication. He's got the thoughts, but is unable to express it. In geometry, straight line is the shortest distance between two lines. Communication is the shortest distance between two persons. Crippled or maimed. Was incapability? Acting indifferent. His incapabilities his anything that makes him act perform beyond natural. In his walking, he cannot walk straight. The flat ground is becoming rocky roads. In his seeing, he has poor vision. He can't determine properly which is which. In his speaking, he might have a stammering tongue or stutter. This kind of person has a defect or imperfect. It might, but God don't look to those things. God sees us as God makes no mistakes. And we are totally ready for what God wants us to do when we realize that God looks past all those things. You know, yesterday I read a story and I preached it on my Opening Doors broadcast and part of my message. This preacher, whose vocal cords was messed up and he had to have surgery, it hurt him to speak for an hour. But he still preached, and a lot of times nobody could understand him. But he still done it. Persistence. That's what God wants. God wants some people that's persistent. To look past their obstacles and be persistent and obey God. Because God called you because He knew that you could do it. He don't always call the qualified, but He qualifies those whom He calls. It might be his limb enable him to walk properly. It might be his tongue enable him to speak properly. It might be his eyes enable him to see clearly. It might be anything abnormal or uncommon to others what makes him crippled. In sports, he got an injury. He cannot join the game. There are the kind of persons who have been hurt, who have been hit, others. Those who have been spiritually hurt in churches, even, will sometimes feel incapable. Because they can't feel like they can feel what they used to feel. But all they have to do is come unto God. And God will use them, make them, and mold them in what they should be. The problem is so many people try to do things on their own when we should be giving it to God. They act indifferently, has changed, not performing as before. He is being watched by others. He is being taught by others. Talked of the town. All others were different sicknesses. Those were minor injuries. Those that have been ill, but cannot be seen outside. Those who have been hurting inside. Those who have been struggling with the doubts and fears. Those today that have been ill in some various ways. There is no expectation of disease. There is no expectation of disability. There is no expectation of incapabilities. An exception. Others. Don't listen to what others will do or say about us. We have to look on lame. We have to look on blind. We have to look on mute and deaf. We have to look on crippled. We have to look on other sicknesses. Listen to the spiritual truth. 1 Corinthians 12 and 12 through 30. Paul described the church as a body. It is a unit but many parts. It has feet and it has eyes, it has a mouth and it has ears, hands, and every part to function as a body. If one part suffers, every part suffers. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. Now how do you think? If feet of the body is lame, if the eyes are blind, if the mouth is mute, if the ears are deaf, if the hands are crippled, the body is unhealthy, it has incapabilities. But God looks past all that. What if the feet cannot walk properly? What if the mouth doesn't want to speak? What if the eyes cannot see clearly? What if the ears cannot hear? God wants our body to be healthy as well as the church. What they did, Matthew 15:30, they laid it at the feet of Jesus and he healed them. The mute started to speak. The crippled made well. The lame walking. The blind started to see. The incapabilities were gone when they surrendered it to the Lord. That's all we got to do tonight is surrender it. They laid it at his feet. Total and complete surrender. Let go and let God. Don't let your failures and mistakes cripple you tonight. Learn from them and move on. 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from the wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sin and will heal their land. Isaiah 35:5-6. Then will the eyes of the blind be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame will leap like a deer, and the mute shall speak for joy. Waters shall gush forth in the wilderness,
10 seconds.
and streams in the desert. Total surrenderness. Surrender your will tonight. If God's calling you, obey Him. Look past your circumstances and obey God tonight in all things.